Data. This is one thing that I feel like everybody should be so good at, because don't we all have data at our fingertips at any given time? You guys could be day one realtors and you can log into your MLS and you can hit all of your market stat buttons and you can pull market stats on almost everything. But how many of you on this call can honestly say, man, I am up to date with every market stat in my market right this second? I'd say Galen would probably be one of the few that I would probably put up there to really be able to slap some market data down at any given point, because he's always doing content with market data in it. He's always talking about it in his videos and talking about certain things. So just think about it. Remember we talked about earlier, we said people buy an area before they buy an agent. So the reality is, are we good with market data in our area? So think about people searching for what? Well, typically they're going to say best neighborhoods in, boom, what area do they want to be in? Midlothian, Richmond, Northern Virginia, oh, whatever, Cincinnati, wherever you're at, Long Island. So are you doing content on those things so that when people are searching and they are finding you, or at least people that are in your sphere are just following you because they know you, they're seeing the things that they want to know when they go to buy a house. Oh man, Nick Creasy just did a whole best neighborhoods in Midlothian. We were thinking about moving to Midlothian. I'm going to watch that. So think about some of the stats, what to share, days on market, how long are homes sitting? What do people ask every time you tell them you're a real estate agent? How's the market? That's everybody's first question. So do you have a viable stat to give them about, oh, well, you know, stuff's been sitting on market for about 41 days now. It's actually a little bit up from 36 that it was 6 months ago, which is pretty good if you're a buyer, because that means that we can probably get in there and help you out. Price range competition. Just what are they up against? Hey, right now, inventory's, you know, getting better, but come spring, we normally have about 18% more options. So if you're coming into spring market wanting to buy, you're going to have even more options than you have right now in about 20, 30 days. See little stats like that where you start throwing these numbers in at people. Buyer demand versus inventory. What's the inventory like in your market right now? I always think it's funny when we go on role play, because a lot of you guys will lie through your teeth when we start talking about stats. Because we'll be like, hey, Galen, how's the market? You know, what's inventory like? And, you know, it's like it's role play, so they have to say something. Oh, well, you know, things are still real tight out there and this and that and blah, blah, blah. And then we'll stop them and we'll say, hey, is that what the stats actually say? And then there'll be someone that knows stats and they're like, oh, actually, no, inventory's up X amount of percent. Prices are here, prices are there. And it's like, man, not only did you just share a completely false narrative with somebody, but you probably just unsold yourself. So the reality is, like, do you know these stats when you're talking to people? What you want to avoid, overloading people with charts. You ever see that person that posts a market update in video form like every month or every week, and they just look like they're a news broadcaster, like they've got a green screen in the back and they've got all these charts and all of this data, and you're like, oh my God, like this is so hard to take in, right? So don't think you have to overdo it. What are the little pieces of information that people will hear and they'll say, oh man, that's really good? What to avoid? National headlines. We don't like national headlines a lot of times because they typically are not in line with our local market data. It's not that you can't use them. It's not that there can't be some clickbait in there. I'm not saying you can't, but the reality is when you look at a national market data on inventory or price values or anything like that, it is very likely that depending on your market, that data could be very different. Richmond was just voted one of the top 10 markets in America this year, and that's where we're at. So if we look at our data, our price points are actually kind of up. Whereas if you're in certain parts of, actually, we'll just give a state as an example. If you live in Florida, you could be in a part of Florida that your values are up 4 to 5 or 6% this year. And you could also live in Florida and be in a place where your values are down 10 to 20% this year. So it is vastly different even within states. So you have to be careful on big headlines, because what could be happening nationally may not be happening locally. And then complex terminology. Just keep it simple, right? Understand that people don't know what they're doing here. You have to educate people. So national headlines can be good if you're trying to go after realtors, because you can talk about events and things that are happening. But if you're going after buyers and sellers, it's probably not the best thing hit. All right, role play. I kind of want to do this, but I'm almost afraid. I want to build trust and show how it can be done, where you're set up, the client's interviewing multiple agents, they're evaluating who to trust with their house. You got 60 seconds, but your goal in 60 seconds is to naturally incorporate a client review, a story, and a local market stat into your response. And you want to be helpful, not promotional. You're gonna 60 seconds for review, a story, story, local market stat. Who would like to try this? Nick Creasy, you got 60 seconds. Galen's about to tell you that he's going to talk to multiple agents, and you have 60 seconds to rebuttal back. You're going to try to work in a client review somehow. You're going to try to work in a relevant story. Again, it doesn't have to be a real one. It's got to be something that ties into Galen and what he's trying to sell, and a local market stat.
Hey, Nick, man, I really enjoyed your presentation. This is actually really helpful and really beneficial to some of the information you told me. But full disclosure, I am kind of interviewing a couple of agents, probably like 2 or 3, just to try to get a good perspective.
Okay. I see that you are going to interview a couple of other agents, but what exactly are you looking for in an agent?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm hoping that I can kind of just partner with someone who, one, they understand my timeline and who's going to get me the top dollar.
Absolutely. It sounds like it's really important that you protect the money that you're going to be spending on this house. Now, do you see the problem that could cause you by looking at multiple or trying to look at houses with multiple different agents?
What's the issue with interviewing multiple different agents to sell my house?
Sorry, you're interviewing to sell the house. That's where I missed it. Yeah. Well, the fact that you're looking to interview multiple agents, that's great, Galen. And I think that you totally could, But I would just love to say that it looks like you're looking to list your house there in Midlothian, and I've sold multiple homes, and I'd love to be able to email you my reviews. Would you like to be actually connected with my past client that just sold in Midlothian near you?
Sure, I would love to speak with them.
Absolutely. I'll send you that review, and I will also get you in contact with them. My people tend to be raving fans, but at the same time, you do realize that the most important part of listing your house is the first 10 days, because the average days on market is about 35. And also, I was able to help a person not only sell their house, but get work done to it, because I haven't quite seen yours yet, but I'll help them get contractors lined up and be able to also get more for the house than what they expected.
Sure. Hey, Nick, real quick, I've got to take off, man. I appreciate you stopping by.
Great job, by the way, 'cause I put you on the spot. You were 1:15 seconds after I reset your timer at a minute, but that was because there was a slip up in the process, right? So when I reset, it was good. You did great, but I wanted to clarify something. You started off hard script work, right? You started off like hard, like, oh, I got this script in my brain. I'm sticking on this script. And to try to get you out of that, to be like, bro, tell a story and give them a stat. You see how it's not a scripting? It's like, man, I actually have to control this narrative. And so a lot of times you can start shooting yourself in the foot because you stick so hard to the script where you're like, well, where's the conversation? And when you're on an appointment, yeah, script works good on the phone to get in the house. But once I'm in that house, like, man, I'm trying to be Galen's best friend. I'll run it back. Galen, you still be the agent again. I'll wing it. I have nothing planned. We're just winging it, right? So Galen, go ahead and give me the same thing as far as interviewing people.
Hey, Jared, I really appreciate you stopping by for this list appointment. Full disclosure before I let you go is that I am going to be interviewing a couple of more top producing agents in the area, just so that I can get an understanding of kind of what I'm up against and how much money I can make.
Yeah, man, I completely understand that. I would imagine from everything we talked about, you want to get your home sold as quickly as possible. So just FYI, homes are sitting on the market about 41 days right this second. In MLS, our average teams listings are selling in about 7 or 8. So we're actually selling about 4 times faster than your average agent in MLS. And most likely you're going to be interviewing another agent that's like that. So if moving stuff fast is important to you, I'd love to help you out. In fact, we just had somebody that sold in your neighborhood recently. Other homes in the neighborhood had been sitting. Again, if you look at all these comps, this comp over here is actually mine. If you see all these, they had sat for 20, 30 days. We actually got this guy's house gone in 4 days. Now, we got a review online with him on Zillow right this second. I'm happy to send you that review. And if you want me to connect him with you as well, you're welcome to chat with him and just see how we did. If that's okay with you, I'd love to get this thing moving along, get you connected and see what I can do to help.
Oh, yeah, sure. I would. No problem. I'd love to talk to him.
Sorry, I was rushing to hit that 1 minute.
It's tough, right? Yeah. So that's why we tell people, connect your client review with the story. That'll save you some time. And then sprinkle a stat if you know them, right? So you always compare like your average market stat versus what your team or what you did personally, as long as it's better.
That's exactly right. Hopefully that helps. Common mistakes. Even experienced agents can undermine their credibility by misuse. Common pitfalls. What doesn't work? Leading with credentials instead of connection. Again, we're trying to connect with these people. So rather than just saying, oh man, look at me, I'm the best, think about the things that the client needs and the things that tie into that when you're trying to give them your credentials. Over explain explaining accomplishments. That's why I like that it said keep it to a minute, because don't you think I could have rambled on for 5 or 6 minutes of accomplishments? Galen knows I can, because every time he sees me role play, I will just run and run and run. But the reality is you don't have to do that. You don't need to be lengthy. You just need to get to it. And then generic testimonials, vague praise like great agent without specific details. So what are the things that's making you great? We know that Kristen and co, who's on this call, they crush with military. So why wouldn't every time she's talking to a military client, explain just how many military families they are helping each year? Explain the reviews, explain the stories, because Kristen knows better than anybody the idiosyncrasies of a military family that's moving into the area and all the stuff that they're having to deal with to be able to get in, and the paperwork and move out and the transfers and the kids and the schools and all of the stuff. Think about how many stories she likely has about doing that.
Yeah, I was just thinking one thing that I learned recently that I've been trying to implement is that sometimes we can't really control what they say in the review, but we can control how we respond to it. So if Jared throws in a review like, Galen did great, he's the best, that doesn't really tell people anything, but your response can be like, hey, thanks, Jared. It was such a pleasure to service another family here in Midlothian. It gave me an opportunity to once again, just like you can kind of create that information, and all of the chat bots and people who are doing SEO, they pick up on that too. That's why like Google always says like, hey, make sure you respond to people because it adds credibility. In your response, you can fill in all the blanks of all the things that they did. Because I just got one recently where like his review was written by like his nickname. So it just looks super weird. So I was able to respond. I'm like, hey, thank you, sir. Really enjoyed helping you find your Northern Richmond house, and stuff, like give them the location, the process, as I work with other first-time home buyers like yourself. So that kind of like fills in some of the gaps that you can do. So if you've got reviews that you haven't responded to that you just have up there, this is a good exercise that will kind of like just go through each one and just make a little thoughtful response that will kind of encompasses all that.
Love it. So just think about that stuff. What can you guys integrate? We're talking about, again, getting social stats out there. One thing that, they had talked about, again, just weaving in other notes because they kind of loosely apply in. Think about the best neighborhoods. Also think about, like, if you're filming YouTube videos and things like that, you can also run your videos through LLMs, through ChatGPT, and you can tell it to turn it into blog posts and repurpose it. So if you guys aren't doing any of that kind of stuff, remember, ChatGPT isn't really going to crawl your videos, but it will crawl data online. So if you use that video and say specifically pull this and turn it into a blog post, and then you start posting those blogs, whether it's on your social media, whether it's on your website, whatever it may be. Me and Galen have something called town sites. I think it'd be good to use some of these things and maybe start running it in town sites. What it will do is not only drive traffic, but even if it doesn't drive traffic, it's giving these LLMs stuff to read about you on, which is giving them reasons to start recommending you. Thank you so much for tuning in to one of our weekly training calls. Obviously, you caught the recorded session, but if you're interested in catching any of our live sessions that we do them typically on Mondays. I'm going to put the link below. So if you want to join any of our trainings live so that you can participate, so you can comment, ask questions, feel free to come. This is for our EXP group that we have here, our Omega group of agents, but it's open to anybody that wants to join, really. So if you're looking for coaching, if you're looking for training, feel free to hit that link below, and we'll see you on one of our live calls.